Join me on the big comfy couch of liberty with today's guest, the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, Tim Moen. How's it going, Tim?
Hey, it's going all right, man.
I'm telling you, what a world we're living in today.
Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm essential. Are you essential, or
I'm
you
just
one of them non-essential?
I'm just a bricklayer. What importance could I have to the economy other than to feed my family and make sure that houses are built right?
Super non-essential, dude.
Yeah, I'm a super non-essential guy. But you know what? At the end of the day, I understand the fear that's going on. And I really believe that this is all just fear-based, run and hide. We're scared of the boogeyman type of stuff. And viruses are viruses, right? They go around, and if we were never concerned about the flu, why should we all of a sudden be concerned about this? And then vice versa, if we're concerned about this, why the hell haven't we been looking after ourselves for so many years with the deadly flu going around?
Yeah, I get. I recently put out an article that argued that we ought to treat the flu as seriously as we treat COVID. Because pathogens are a real risk, right? And what I hear from the science proponents, I guess, is that, well, this is different than the flu, it's worse. I'm like, well, okay, that's fair, but listen, if the same thing we're doing now prevents flu deaths, shouldn't we be doing those things? And what I'm hearing from people is that essentially what it sounds like to them, because they don't want to accept the logical ramifications of their support for the shutdown, is that, well, we can tolerate flu deaths, but we can't tolerate COVID deaths or something like that. Or we can tolerate 50,000 people dying from the flu, but we can't tolerate 200,000 people dying from COVID. And so to me, I feel like that is kind of a slap in the face of flu victims. I mean, I have dealt with flu victims. I've seen the damage that pathogen does firsthand in the field. I've seen young people having to get heart transplants that were otherwise healthy, toddlers and children dying from this, as well as seniors and nursing homes, having this wipe out numerous residents. So flu is nothing to sneeze at. And I meant that pun, by the way, so take it. But, do we need to shut down the economy? No. Do we need to shutter the doors? No. Do we need to do all these draconian measures that are going on? No. Individuals should be allowed to do their own risk assessment. I make an assessment before I go to work about whether I would rather be unemployed or rather risk getting COVID, because I'm going right into the heart of the viral loads, let's say. And I assess the risk of unemployment as being higher than the risk that COVID presents to me. So I would rather risk getting COVID than risk what unemployment entails. Everyone should be allowed to make those assessments for themselves. And that's it. And, we should be protecting the vulnerable. If I'm immunocompromised, I need to have some personal responsibility and stay home and not go out into a risky environment. The world doesn't need to stop because I don't want to take personal responsibility or something.
Exactly. And so you have all the well, not all, but you have a lot of people on the other side of this saying that, you know what, Keith, you're selfish. How could you want to come and infect everybody by going to work? And I'm very responsible when I go out. We stand in line at the grocery store now. We're all 6 feet apart. I have my hand sanitizer there. I'm making sure that I'm not going to bring this in. It's probably a little more than I used to be. I was never this extreme, but it kind of awoke me a little bit to the situation, to that, maybe at the season every year we should do these kind of things. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to me, it's, someone who accuses you of being selfish for wanting to go to work and wanting to go get groceries or whatever, while they are saying the entire world needs to be locked down because I don't want to take responsibility for my own risk. I mean, that's the epitome of selfishness. I mean, this is boomer mentality, exemplified. It's like the entire world needs to make me safe. The entire world needs to adjust their language so that my feelings don't get hurt. It's easy. Like I would consider it extremely selfish if I was immunocompromised to say that the whole world needs to shut down to protect me, when it's so simple. I can just stay on my couch and avoid getting the virus. It's not hard. I mean, if I go outside and I get the virus, okay, I got it from someone else, I guess, but I took the risk, the same risk everyone else took by going outside, and I need to own the consequences.
Yes,
so
I have a friend, Steve. He says the virus doesn't come to you; you go to the virus.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense when you put it that way. As if you're in a situation where you can't, you're not going to be able to fight this, or you feel that you won't be able to, then don't go out. There, you can have your groceries delivered. You can have friends and family help you out, but you cannot stop the economy. The way we're doing this now, the end result of this is going to be millions of people who are going to be injured from this solution, economically, mentally. I'm starting to see that coming out is the mental anguish in some people who are just going crazy staying at home. There's so many side repercussions to what this is doing that aren't being looked at because of this fear that's being projected. Now, I don't want to turn on my conspiracy theory hat, but I was reading the other day about Bill 10 in Alberta. And I know you're in Alberta, so maybe you can comment on what you think about Bill 10 and what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't actually read it. I just always assume that government is trying to expand its powers. Bill 10, from what I understand, gives the premier and legislators kind of carte blanche to do all sorts of things without getting any kind of approval, without any kind of checks and balances. And I mean, it's pretty severe what they can do. But this is going on everywhere, and people are begging for it. They want it. They are happy with it. You and I, liberty lovers, may have to accept that what we're living under right now may go on in perpetuity and may never end. That this may be the new norm. I mean, here's the thing: if people can get their groceries, get everything they need, get their entertainment streamed to them. I've been missing movie theaters, but then I've noticed that some of the movies that would come out in theaters are now coming out on my on-demand TV. And I'm like, well, okay, do I really need to even go to movie theaters anymore? If everything I need in life is coming right to my house right now, and I'm comfortable, and everyone else is comfortable. And look, there are people I know on my Facebook feed that, have low-paying jobs, and they rely on disability checks or welfare, different things. And they were concerned because, I can't go to work now. I'm non-essential. But the government's handing me actually quite a bit of money right now. I'm doing good. I love this, right? So why wouldn't I just stay at home and watch anime and play video games? So everyone is as long as they remain relatively comfortable, why would they ever want this to end? And, I made a joke on my Facebook the other day. I said, that the safest possible world, the most utopian world we can think of, is one where we're all hermetically biosealed in our own containment pods, having nutrient-dense Soylent Green pumped into our veins from state scientists, and having our cerebral cortex is hooked up to a matrix-like computer that gives us a nice, pleasant virtual reality where our feelings never get hurt, where whatever fantasy we want comes true right in front of our eyes. That would be utopia, wouldn't it? And to most people, that would be utopia. And that's essentially, with a few steps removed, where we're at right now and where we're heading. And people are like, this isn't actually so bad after all. So I don't see what incentive there would be for government to lift its restrictions and decrease its chokehold on liberty that it has right now. People seem to be happy with this and enjoying this. I mean, even I am taking advantage of this. I created a website recently called timmoen.net, where I'm putting everything. I'm figuring out how to build my online empire. Thanks, government, for shutting everything down, because now I've been forced to actually, do something productive with my time off rather than get distracted by consumerism. So
lots of 10,000 hours left for you now to become experts at everything in the world, Tim.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think as libertarians, we have to have a good answer to why people wouldn't want to be just jacked into the matrix and, have all their immediate gratifications fulfilled by the state and never have to put themselves at risk ever again. Why would we want to take that away from them? Why would they want to take the red pill and live in the dangerous reality when they can be happy in the matrix? That's a difficult question to answer. I don't know how to approach that. It's disconcerting to me. Let's say I'm very disturbed by that thought and what it means.
And to see the reaction of the people to this, the response that the government has had and the cry of more and more and more is definitely it's scary, because at the end of the day, somebody's got to be in that meat plant cooking burger, making burgers, making steaks, and someone's got to be working the chicken farm. Someone has to be out in the field picking the vegetables, and that's not happening right now. And I think
that's true. And that's the one thing that can bring this down and create some sort of revolt or rebellion, is if the government can't figure out how to, like if it's not good enough to just figure out who the essential people are and say, okay, you guys are allowed to work. Well, we know that there are lots of things deemed non-essential that are essential for those essential things to work, that government can't think of all these things. And, we're already hearing about supply chains being threatened, in Newfoundland, the big shipping company that ships everything to Costco and Walmart and the big box stores there is in danger of having to suspend its operations because it doesn't have funds. I'm hearing from trucking companies that their clients are pushing back payments by 90 days. But in the meantime, they have to pay for fuel, and where's that money going to come from, and how are they going to, so trucking companies are starting to feel the pinch. So how long can they keep this up before we start to see cracks in the supply chain and things starting to fall apart? And at that point, when people can't get the comforts that they want, the groceries that they want, the whatever it is that they want, then we'll start to see some unrest. And where we may see it is, with people that are living on the margins, can't make ends meet, can't scrounge up resources, they start stealing and breaking in, and we start to see criminality and mobs run roughshod through stores, and at that point things start to fall apart, and it's not a good scene. So I'm hopeful that the government lifts restrictions before some of that stuff starts to happen, but I'm just not sure what the incentive is right now for them to lift anything, right? And we can see the narrative being shifted right now, Keith. Like the goalposts are moving, right? Originally, the lockdown was sold as a temporary measure to flatten the curve because we don't want to overwhelm the health system. Because if we overwhelm the healthcare system, we'll have more unnecessary deaths, right? We just can't tolerate people dying by not being able to get medical care, by being stuck in a hallway or not able to get into the hospital, or all the ventilators are being used and I can't get a ventilator I need to save my life. Okay, now the goalposts are being moved yet again, because we see, for example, in Sweden, where they haven't imposed these draconian restrictions, that 78% of their ventilators are open, or maybe that's Alberta actually. Alberta may, but in either case, Sweden's healthcare system is far from being overwhelmed right now, but now at the same time we're seeing people start to go, well, you told us this was to stop overwhelming the healthcare system, but we're not really seeing evidence of an overwhelmed healthcare system everywhere. Maybe in Italy, New York, they're saying they have lots of ventilators and they have more than enough ICU beds, and all the ERs are empty because no one's going there, and they're actually laying off healthcare workers because all the elective procedures that normally get done aren't getting done. So the money they have coming in isn't coming in. So they're laying off healthcare workers. They have all these empty beds. Where is this emergency?
Yeah, where is this emergency?
Right.
And you're in the health. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're in the industry yourself. Are you seeing on the ground this mass COVID disaster as a paramedic or a firefighter, or are these 911 calls going off? So, and you're in the field.
I'm in the field. It's never been slower. Don't remember a time in my 25 plus year career that it's been this slow. I had a guy high on crystal meth and fentanyl and cocaine and GHB give me the sign of the cross the other day and try to ward me away like I was a vampire, because he was more afraid of getting corona from me than he was of the fentanyl he just snorted. And that's kind of true of everyone right now. And on one hand, it's kind of good because, in our system, our healthcare system is chronically always overwhelmed. There's never enough healthcare for everyone. This is why we have long waiting lines and clogged up waiting rooms. Well, I've never seen it less clogged up than it is now. So in one sense, we've never had more capacity in our healthcare system because all these hypochondriacs who have stuck farts or stubbed toes or weird pimples aren't coming in to emerge.
They are on lockdown, Tim. Those are the people who are like, oh my God, I can't get this.
Yes. Yeah. The people that are most paranoid about their health are the ones staying away from the hospital. But at the same time, we have to be careful of irrational panic because, I've had some patients, I remember I've had a couple old ladies, for example. One old lady had a fainting episode that was unexplained. Another old lady had uncontrolled atrial fibrillation, was having some heart palpitations. Neither of them wanted to go to the hospital because they were worried about the coronavirus. Now, these ladies, the symptoms they were having needed a battery of tests and a collaborative team of specialists to figure out what was going on with them. They could have had an underlying pathology that could kill them suddenly, right? And yet they didn't want to go to the hospital. They refused to go to the hospital because they're worried about corona, something that they might get in the hospital that then if they in the off chance they get it, might kill them. They were more worried about that than the thing that they are having right now for sure that could definitely kill them, right? And so we're having this irrational, and so we're seeing articles, for example, in New York City about all these people dying at home and all this spike in cardiac arrest calls and all this thing. And some people are saying they suspect it's because all these people have COVID. I think it's because they aren't getting the medical care that they should be getting. Because, with COVID, you can feel it coming on. You develop symptoms slowly. You start to have increasing short of breath. If it gets bad, you're going to go get checked out because you're hyped up. You're like, oh, shit, I got COVID, and they're telling me it's shortness of breath. I better go to the hospital. Meanwhile, if I'm at home and I've got a little bit of chest discomfort and it's just a little pressure there, right? It doesn't feel good. And I'm like, well, normally I'd go to the hospital, but right now I don't want to get COVID. So it's probably not, probably just gas or something, right? And we all know one of the cardinal signs of a heart attack is people are going down that river in Egypt called denial, right?
That's right.
Deny. And normally we work very hard as a profession to overcome this denial and say, listen, if you ever have that symptom in your chest, go to the hospital. But now we're telling people stay away from the hospital. You might get COVID, you might die. People are scared. Like when you're more afraid of getting corona from a healthcare practitioner than you are of the fentanyl you just snorted, we know we have an epidemic of panic going on right now. And I suspect that will kill a lot of people. And We're seeing a huge spike in cardiac arrests and deaths in New York at home. And I suspect that has more to do with people not getting their legitimate medical ailments looked after more than it is about COVID sweeping through there.
Guaranteed. And across the board, our medical system has always had its cracks and its flaws. And the fear of us overloading it was a real one because it was maxed out. But we're seeing once again, government intervention. We've seen exactly the opposite effect of what we wanted to have happen, right? Or what we expected. And I don't think there's one time where the government has said, I'm going to intervene and this is going to be my result. And that happened. It's always been the worst side of that.
Yeah, because there's so many negative unintended consequences. It's always the unseen, as Bastiat, I think, put it, and Henry Hazlitt put it in Economics for one lesson. What is seen, Hazlitt uses the broken window fallacy. It's like, if we want to stimulate the economy in a town, what we do is go around and break all the windows in that town, because then the glass makers have to produce more glass and they get more money, and then they spend it in the community and more businesses pop up. But the unseen thing is what people would have spent that money on or saved that money if they hadn't had their window broken. And that's why the economy gets poor. People just look at the scene. Right now, the scene is the COVID virus and people dying from it. It's very visible. It's out there. You can see it. You can see example after example of people dying from this. But what is unseen is all the damage that the shutdown is doing. We're not seeing the suicides. We're not seeing these people dying at home and why they're dying from ailments that wouldn't have killed them, a month ago if they had proper medical care. We don't know all the damage that is being done, and it'll be a while before we do.
Well, what are you thinking about this nursing home in Quebec with like 31 dead that just happened, or 21 dead that just happened? I don't know if you even know that news yet.
I think I heard about it. I don't know the details.
So there's two stories I want to tell here. One is the sadness of the fact that a government-run program again, nobody's checking on these people at the nursing home. All of a sudden, someone goes there for management, and there's 31 dead. 5 of them died from the virus. 26 died from dehydration. And there was nobody looking after these people. What had happened is the workers themselves stopped going for fear of either spreading the virus or having the virus. And then it broke down, and nobody was there because we're not allowed to go check on them because of the regulation, right? There's so many regulations involved in that. So, but the other side,
and we go ahead, sir.
It's okay. The article itself is 31 die because of COVID. That's the article. And so 5 had COVID and died. Who knows if there had been care there for them? But the 26 that died of dehydration are now being blamed on COVID because the workers were scared to go there because of COVID.
Right. Yeah. So instead of being blamed on panic and, regulations or whatever, it's being blamed on the virus. And of course, people are blaming everything on the virus. The government shutdown this is because of the virus. No, it's because of the government. That is extremely troubling. And I'm hearing similar stories here in Alberta. I've heard some anecdotal stories about how residents aren't getting the care they are entitled to, that they're paying for, because staff are scared to come to work. And I've heard from some people that staff have been basically scared by their own employer that, there are things that are discouraging them from coming to work. The message that they're getting about how dangerous this thing is sending them home. And if you're a low paid personal aide, what is the incentive for you to go to work and die when you could just stay home and live another day? I have to make this assessment when I go to work, right? It's like, if we were dealing right now with a virus that was as contagious as COVID, but had 100% case fatality rate, I would be thinking twice about going to work. I'll tell you right now, I might take my chances with unemployment, and that's a risk assessment I should be taking as a person. But right now, it seems like our whole society is being run by fear, and fear creates irrational decisions. It's not good. And I pointed out in my article that, listen, we need to take our duty to care seriously. So if I've taken on a duty and I'm taken an oath and signed a contract that I will care for these residents, myself as a firefighter paramedic, I have signed up because of the risk involved. I enjoy taking on risk. I want to take on risk. I run into burning buildings. What does science say about that risk? Should I not run into that building? Screw you. I'm doing it. I am willing to put my life on the line and put my neck out there for my fellow man. And that right should be extended to everyone. Even if they're going to the grocery stores to feed themselves, or even wanting to engage in entertainment or whatever. If they're willing to take the risk of catching COVID at a movie theater, let them. But I asked someone on my Facebook was pointing out, they were making fun of those dumb U.S. Southerners, and they showed this heat map that showed how Southerners weren't self-isolating, and those smart liberals in the North, they were self-isolating, right? They were imposing isolation measures because of science. And I pointed out, well, doesn't science also say that in order to get groceries or make money, you need to leave your couch? What does science say about that? Maybe it's the Southerners that are following science. And my point was, look, science can tell us what is, it can tell us some facts, but it can't tell us what we ought to do as individuals. And so I asked the question, well, what does science say about me going to work? given that I'm in a high risk profession. What does science say about whether I should quit my job or not? And of course, he had no answer for that. He's just like, well, you're an essential service. So, well, that doesn't tell me what science says I should do for myself. It says that maybe science says I should go to work for everyone else, and maybe I should be a sacrificial lamb for everyone else. Does science say that? Well, science can't say that. Science can only tell us facts, and then we have to plug those facts into our own values framework and into our own risk assessment model and decide what's best for our lives. And what's best for my life is that I go to work. And by the way, that's also good for the people that I treat and that I serve. So if we just let people take this risk assessment themselves and run their own life and be willing to accept the consequences, that's what we do with everything else. It's what we do with driving. We could stop automobile deaths right now if we ban driving. But yet we accept a certain number of automobile deaths a year because we accept that individuals need to have some freedom to do things. And they're taking that risk on themselves. You and I are taking that risk on ourselves. Every time we go driving, we can't really blame other people for that, right? So
we govern you can govern an automobile at 30 miles an hour. If you really wanted to stop serious injuries and car accidents, you could wrap them in bubble wrap. There's so many things that you could do to stop these, but we don't, because we as people want to be free, and inherently inside us, and I believe that about everybody, even the ones that are living in fear right now, they still have that inherent drive to be free and to do what they want. And I think what's lost in the conversation is that you have to do what they want, and not allow the other person to self-attain or to do what they want, right? It's not an individual thought. It's turned into, we all have to do what I want, instead of I will do what I want and you do what you want, right? It's become this very this almost like a tribal thing. We're Canadians. We're good people. We're better than that. We can all stay home, and I don't think that's it's not an intelligent way to move forward. And I think what's going to happen from this at the end of the day, because I don't see the lockdown coming to an end anytime soon. And you're right that there's no skin in the game for them to shut down when people are trying to start up again, when people are trying to shut everything down. So this will continue on and on. And what I think is going to happen is we're going to have to hit a lower point in the situation where it gets dire before people will say, hey, you know what, this is.
Yeah, no, I think people are going to have to feel discomfort in their own personal lives before they do anything, right? And right now, the people that are making decisions for us are all the people that have zero skin in the game. They will not face any of the repercussions from the rules that they're making for the rest of us. They can tell us to socially distance and isolate from our family while going off to their cottage and ignoring that same rule. I mean, in fact, that's, one could argue that's what the very nature of government is. It's to create moral rules for everyone that you then exempt yourself from, right? So thou shalt not steal unless you're us, and we call it taxation. Thou shalt not counterfeit unless you're us, and we print up unending money via the central bank. These people are going to do better off because of this virus. They're going to have more power. Central banks are going to have more money and more wealth because of our unending perpetual indentured servitude to them going forward to pay for all this stuff. But meanwhile, we are going to be poor because of it. The price of everything is going up. Our ability to make wealth is going down. More of it will be confiscated. Our buying power will be eroded and transferred to the central banks. And we are happily accepting this right now. And in 2 or 3 or 5 years, when we really feel the pain of this, people are going to be, what happened? And they're going to blame that damn virus. And they're going to ignore the fact that it was all those rulers that were imposing these rules on us that placed us in chains, not a virus. And in fact, it wasn't just the rulers, it was us. It was our neighbors that begged the government to put chains on them. They wanted the illusion of security, and they got neither security nor liberty.
That's right. I guess that's we can call it a day for that one. But I'm going to call you back more times, Tim. We're going to do this a lot
Okay,
because I'm
sounds
I'm
good.
I'm I'm going to get this started and get this going. So I appreciate your time
Yeah,
today. And
thank you.
one more question before I totally let you go.
Yeah.
Do you see the central bank cracking? Do you eventually see the system falling apart, or do you think that they can perpetually inflate and steal? Because we're down at like 5 cents on the dollar now from our 1935 buying power. Can they split that
Yeah.
further? Will it go to 1 cent? Will it go to like a tenth of a cent of that $100 from the day, or does this crack eventually? In your opinion?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's so hard to prognosticate. All we can say is that disaster is coming. We can't really say when it will come. We know this is mathematically unsustainable, and so what it will really come down to is the faith and trust that institutions and borrowers and debtors have ultimately in the system. And at some point, that faith will be eroded. But at what point that will be is hard to say. Partly because it seems like the general population has more and more faith in the system than they ever had. They are begging the government to do stuff. They are, they have no sense of personal responsibility at all. They think it's all you and I, Keith, and the government, everyone but them is responsible for this. So they have no faith in themselves, and they have all that faith is in the institutions. So as long as that faith is there, things are going to have to get really uncomfortable for that faith in the system, that confidence in the system to erode, right? But at the point that it starts eroding, and is when things will start falling apart quickly. And I think that the point where it'll erode is when people are, when they're having to take wheelbarrows full of cash to buy a loaf of bread or something like that. At some point, people will be like, "This isn't sustainable," and things will start falling apart. So who knows when that will be? But I'm concerned for people that have, well, my old man, for example, he's lost a ton of his retirement, that money that he's relying on for his retirement, and what's left, it'll be lucky to buy half of what it'll buy now. That's going to impact his health, his ability to protect himself from pathogens, all sorts of things going forward into the future. And I have to believe a lot of other people are in that same boat. But
It's funny because
I honestly don't know.
I made a post on Facebook, basically saying that, for those out there who are shaming people for pushing back against this, you're being selfish. You're missing the point, right? And it was a lot more colorful than that. I used some really nice language, but it's probably my most shared thread. It's got over almost 300 people who have shared it now across the country, which for me is incredible. Nobody's really watching Keith, but
Awesome.
it caught on, and some of the comments in there, and what you were saying was, one of the ladies had said, "You know what? It's sad because I was ready for retirement, and now I don't know if I am going to be anymore, because this has just totally blown my retirement fund to shreds."
Yeah.
And she's concerned now, and pictures on her Facebook are her on a boat in the south, and she's she's all ready to rock and roll, and now, sorry, your savings are gone. And in our haste to save the elderly from the virus, we're creating a whole new platform of problems for those same people who are ready for retirement. So everybody be mindful of the choices that you make, because you're hurting people along the way in different ways that you can't necessarily.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. You have a wonderful day,
cool.
Tim.
You too.
We'll talk again.
You bet. Talk to you later.
I know. Thanks for listening in today. If you enjoyed what you heard, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, and come back for more content. Thank you.